Welcome back to Impact, the final segment looking at the work of the United Nations in Jamaica. We've heard from some of the UN agencies. Well, there are two others, very, very important as well. The United Nations Environment Programme. We have with us from UNEP, Alessandra Vanzella-Khouri, as well as a representative of the Food and Agriculture Organization, Dr. Dunstan Campbell. Welcome to Impact.
Thank you.
Vanzella-Khouri, UNEP Environment, huge issue for the world. Politically in the Caribbean, it has not figured in the political discourse yet, and I suspect to our detriment, is it not?
Yes, it has figured, but unfortunately the action has not taken at the level that is required. That's the truth.
And the challenges facing us, yeah? We are
tremendous
islands,
yep.
Yeah? Many of which are low-lying islands. Erosion, climate change, the impact of violent tropical storms. We are extremely vulnerable. What are we doing?
Well, first of all, the issues that are really impacting the Caribbean, as you mentioned, like climate change, have a direct bearing on the economy, on health issues, and it's unfortunate that this level of attention has not been paid at the political level, as you mentioned. However, in terms of what are we doing, there have been steps that have been taken by governments in the region. One, for example, the establishment of this Caribbean Environment Program, for which Jamaica is the headquarters, the program that I work for, part of the UNEP, established since 1981, looking precisely at protection of the coastal and marine environment while promoting sustainable development. And under that umbrella, governments have taken steps in the right direction. But the challenges are very many and they are huge. And sometimes, or right now, we are facing the situation where we are not keeping up with what needs to be done. In terms of, for example...
Do you find that governments in the region, if not in Jamaica, are weak in terms of balancing so-called development projects with protecting the environment? For example, we here in Jamaica, we are seeing the Spanish invasion, part 2 or phase 2 of the Spanish invasion. They came in the 15th century. They're back in the 21st century in terms of these huge hotel projects and putting tremendous stress on the environment. Do you find that governments are weak to push back against these kind of enterprises?
I think governments sometimes are in a very difficult position in trying to promote the economy. Sometimes they overlook issues that will eventually have a direct bearing in the economy. Tourism development definitely is one of those, and we've seen it not just in Jamaica but all over the Caribbean, where the interest of promoting tourism development has created actually more trouble in other areas like environment, which eventually is going to affect tourism.
Oh yes.
The tourism that comes to the Caribbean is primarily the sun and beach and sea driven tourism. They want that environment to be maintained. They don't want to come and see a polluted sea, beaches that are eroded, that are not attractive. And in the long term, this is what is happening. We've seen it in Jamaica, in Negril, for example, the situation with the beaches there already, how degraded they are.
We destroy our beaches. Because
of bad development patterns and investment.
But also practices which we are now seeing for the first time in Jamaica, where we are stealing a beach to put it elsewhere. Yeah? And in all of this is food security.
Of course.
Yeah, because you need the projects to get going so as to generate income and to create jobs so people can, live and survive and thrive. Where the FAO is concerned in this time, thankfully global commodity prices are beginning to trend down, but we are very vulnerable. What lessons have we learned from the recent experiences?
First time, I must say that Jamaica is not doing as badly as the other countries in the world. But the situation with food security is important to Jamaica. as it relates to the poverty in the first instance, where 20 plus percent of your population is living below the poverty line. You can get all sorts of figures. Some say 14, some say 16, but it doesn't matter. 14 is as bad as it comes. What we need to do, there are two sides of it. There is the demand side, of course. You know, Jamaica before the food crisis. Really, when you spoke to persons here in Jamaica about food security before 2007, they would have told you that there is not a food security problem in Jamaica because we had money to buy food and there was a certain level of production. But the food crisis has changed all these things, that even if you have money, the supply is not there. Yeah. So what FAO is focusing on right now is to the supply side of food, making sure that your lands are accessible, the inputs and the training and educational support is there, and of course the marketing and distribution are in place. It's going to take a little while, but we are working on those supplies side of the food.
So what kind of support do you give? Technical and
technical support. We provide technical support, and in fact last year we started, the Director General started this project, which is called the Initiative on Soaring Food Prices, where fertilizer and other inputs are distributed to farmers, vulnerable farmers, so that they would increase or continue to produce, given the fact that you know, those prices have increased so much. So it actually became a strain for small farmers.
Right. And Alessandra Vanzella-Khouri, in terms of the UNEP program in Jamaica, what's your flagship program, if you have one?
Well, first of all, as I said at the beginning, we are a regional program. We cover about 36 states, including territories from the wider Caribbean region. So in terms of Jamaica, we have had for a number of years projects in protection of wildlife, supporting education programs. It was said earlier that it's so important, early childhood education, supporting environmental education in schools. Right now we are supporting a project for assessing land-based sources of marine pollution and developing a national plan on how to address them. The Kingston Harbor, we were involved with it for many years as well.
And the FAO, are you at the small farmer level? Or
yes, we are at the small farmer level. And in fact, I would just like to take over from where my colleague has just left with regards to climate change.
Yes, they're wrapping us up.
We feel that climate change has caused a lot of our problem, and we are working specifically on those issues. We are working with the government on a disaster preparedness and mitigation plan. We're working with practices that can mitigate against the climate changes. We are working on other issues, but well, of course, we mentioned the input supply project that we are targeting. So there are several areas where we are making intervention with regards to Jamaica food security.
Dr. Dunstan Campbell of the Food and Agriculture Organization and Alessandra Vanzella-Khouri of the United Nations Environment Programme. Thanks so much for being with us. That's our program for today. Thanks for making it Impact.